Did you know that there's a surprisingly large number of people out there that have won the lottery or received a large amount through inheritance, and then the money is no longer with them? Some of these cases are actually pretty tragic, like family feuds and people poisoning each other. But for the most part, the reason why most of these people lose their money is related to the topic of today's video, and that's identity shifting. I'm actually going to give you a step-by-step guide about that. So what happens is, when a person has an internal state that mismatches their external world, in the case of winning a large sum of money, if someone isn't used to that, they find a way to self-sabotage subconsciously. Obviously, they don't do it on purpose, which gets them back to their normal state and their normal level of comfort. Now, each of us have an internal thermostat, and you may be familiar with this term, which is often used in a financial thermostat, and where your view of money is, where your internal thermostat for money is. But it's not just money, we have one for all areas of life. And if you think about a heating and a thermostat in a home, for example, if you set a temperature to be a specific level, once the temperature drops below that, the mechanism kicks in and it will turn the heating on to bring it back to that level. And the same happens for different areas of life. So for example, with the money, we have an internal thermostat related to money, where if it drops below a certain level, you'll notice you have more motivation, more stress, and more kick up the butt kind of mentality to go and change your circumstances. And this happens because the internal beliefs, values, the self-image, the behaviors, the goals, all of that stuff is not aligned with the outside world. And Tony Robbins often talks about raising your standards and making your wants become musts. Here's a little self-assessment you can do to identify your current thermostat, and you can try this and try different questions for different areas of your life. So for finances, you might want to ask yourself, what is the amount of money that I have in my bank before I feel motivated or stressed to make it change? For some people, it's going to be $20,000. For others, it's going to be $100,000. Whereas some people are comfortable with a debt of minus $5,000. But you will know there's going to be a number for you where if I said to you, if your bank account drops to that level, what number would that be? And that's your thermostat level for your finances. At what point would you decide to change your health and fitness habits based on your current body weight? And what number is that for you? You know, for some people, they can get 100 pounds, 150, 200 pounds even overweight or where they want to be before they decide to take some action. Whereas for others, they might go away on a weekend, put on a couple of pounds, and they're back in the gym the next day and they're not drinking for the next 2 months. And they maintain their six pack or their physique because their standards of what they've set and their identity for that particular area of life is in a higher level. What level of energy am I willing to settle for each day? What's the normal level for me? For some people, they're so used to being low energy and not having any that their standard is very low. Whereas others, if it drops below a 7 out of 10, they're going to do something about it. They're going to be seeing a specialist. They're going to be optimizing their sleep. They're going to be researching into it and seeing what they need to do to change it. So if we know that you can achieve external results, but the identity hasn't shifted, and oftentimes it will lead to you going back to your old patterns, the question becomes, can you actually change your identity? Well, a person's identity can be changed multiple times throughout life, and that's because identity isn't static. You already have multiple identities right now. I bet some of you are going to be mums or dads and entrepreneurs and vegans and fitness fanatics or gamers, or you'll have a different combination of identities that are relevant to you. And maybe in the past they weren't there and you had different ones. So therefore, if you change your interest, your passions, your hobbies, where you spend time, how you set goals, your identity is going to change. And that's why I would argue that it's incredibly important that you spend the time to actually think for yourself and identify what it is you want to do in your life. Because if you don't decide and you don't take the time to do that, naturally, you're going to go with the flow. You're going to follow the crowd. You're going to follow the masses, which probably isn't the path that you want to be going down. Changing your identity literally means changing the core construct and image of how you see yourself and how you relate to the world. It's what's important to you at the core. This includes your self-image, your beliefs, your behaviors, your values, and your goals. And you can shift your identity in a couple of ways. The first way, which is probably what you want, is through intention. So you have an idea of what you want and you're intentionally trying to make those changes in order to help you get a little bit closer to the person you want to be, to the goals you want to achieve. The second way is through automation. And this is basically where you don't do anything. You just let your life influence you, your co-workers influence you, the people you hang around with influence you, and you just go with the flow. So this is the instance where you're probably not going to be achieving the things you want because you haven't even thought about it and you're just going with the masses. You've probably heard of the famous quote that goes something like this: you don't get what you want in life, you get who you are. And that's because identity is the driving force behind everything that you do. You can talk about wanting to achieve all of these goals and setting these New Year's resolutions and achieving these things and taking these trips and wanting, but until you change the internal state, until you have that shift, you're never going to achieve any of it, or at least make it last. And this is often why people will procrastinate and they'll self-sabotage. You may go around and say to yourself, I know what I should be doing, but I'm just not doing it. Why am I not doing it? It's you're trying to force external change, but you're not doing the internal work. You haven't aligned with the values, you haven't shifted the image of yourself and made that change first. And this often leads to repeating the same patterns over and over. And just like the lottery winners, you may be able to relate to this in the context of relationships, where you sometimes see people where they keep saying they're attracting the same type of partner and over again, and they're pointing the finger, but they're not looking inside. They're not doing the internal work, the internal shifts to change who they are fundamentally, to become that person who is capable of achieving, attracting the partner that they want. And the same idea can apply to health and fitness or weight loss, for example. If someone sees themselves in a certain light and they don't shift the internal state, and I found this a lot of the time with my clients over the years as well, which is why I recognize the value in this work. Once you become the type of person who, and you start using that language, you start doing the internal work, you start changing your beliefs and then matching it with your habits, you're way more likely to succeed in the long run. In fact, a quick story on that. I often get some of my clients when they're trying to change this identity to take mini exercise throughout the day, even 2 minutes at a time, multiple times a day. And one of the benefits and habits behind this, not just to up someone's activity level, but is to actually remind you and tell yourself that I'm the type of person who is active, who does this stuff. And before I started working with clients when I was a late teenager / young adult, I remember thinking at the time, I don't understand how people can get so out of shape. Of course, I was ignorant. I didn't really understand a lot of things back then. And I had my perception, my perspective of the world. But here was my thought process, and it actually taught me a big lesson, is that I had such a strong value and desire on fitness. Like, I loved it. It was part of my identity. I'd go home from the gym, I'd be reading stuff, I'd be watching videos, I'd be doing all of the things. And for me, if my body was slightly off, or I had a heavy weekend or whatever it might have been, I was straight back on it in the gym the next day or the next week or whatever. And I quickly got back to where I was, and then I kept progressing. And so I would look at other people sometimes and just not understand, not from a place of judgment, but just purely not understanding how someone could complain about it, yet their behaviors and actions weren't aligned with what they wanted. And then what I realized when I started working with clients was, oh, you know what? Not everyone values this and sees this in the same way as I do. And so just because it comes easier to me, it doesn't mean it does for other people. And then on the contrary, I found that other people had an identity for other areas of life where they did things more naturally that they were great at that I struggled with. And so this was a really valuable lesson. But you can change that identity through doing the internal work and then following it with the habits. Okay, so now we're getting on to the steps of how you can change your identity. And step 1 is awareness. Now, this is awareness of the problem and awareness of the desire. So if you want to shift your identity, you obviously have a certain goal or something in your life that you're trying to achieve, and you realize that you're not there yet. So what is the specific problem, and then what is the desire that you want? Knowing this is going to help to get you clarity on that. And it's really important to see where you are, because then we can know where you've got to get to. Step 2 is letting go. Now, when you've reflected and you've taken an honest look at where you're at, where you want to get to, you can look at what things are holding you back. Maybe there are certain friendships or relationships or connections that you need to let go. Maybe there are certain thought patterns and belief systems that you need to let go. Maybe there are certain actions and habits that you need to let go. This is a chance for you to look at your life with an honest perspective and just really ask yourself, what is holding me back? What can I let go of here in order to step into this new identity? Becoming the 2.0 version isn't about creating an imaginary you that doesn't exist. It's about removing the BS, the stories, the limits, and the comfort zone that you've been accustomed to. Then you'll realize that you already have the greatest version of yourself within. And I think it's really important that I state that, because sometimes when we talk about reinventing ourselves, becoming the 2.0 version, upgrading, I truly believe that already exists within each of us. And part of our job is to remove the layers of the onion, to remove all of the stories and to find the true you, which is underneath. Step 3 is creating the you 2.0. So looking at your values, your beliefs, and your behaviors. This is the fun and creative part of identifying who do you want to become, what behaviors, beliefs, and values would you like to adopt. Determine your core values, identify your current limiting beliefs, list out all of the key habits, the ideal physical appearance that you want. You know, in the past, I've definitely looked at what I've been wearing and I've decided, you know what, I want to get a different style, I want a different fashion, I want to get a different haircut. Whatever it might be, think about that for yourself and reflect, is this an area that you want to change? Step 4 is skills and knowledge, daily learning. And this simply means to find specific books, courses, or other educational content that's going to give you the skills and knowledge for you to step into that new version, because you've already identified what's in your way and where you want to go. So maybe there are certain skills and knowledge that you need to acquire in order to get to that next level. Think about daily reading habits, daily studying habits, daily reflection, and implementation. Step 5 is the daily habits. Consider what habits you might need in order to step into that new version of yourself. You may want to look at specific areas of life, such as your health, exercise, nutrition, sleep habits, finances, investing, saving, automation, weekly reviews, etc. Relationships, quality time with loved ones, date nights, kind gestures. Self-improvement might be goal scripting, audio affirmations, visualization, business, high profit actions. These are the kind of things you want to consider for the habits that are specifically going to help you move forwards. Step 6, your environment. So this is your physical environment and your surroundings, your influences. This can be your office space, your home, the people you're surrounded by, but your environment influences a large portion of what you do, what you see, what you have, what you experience in this world. I could just say that your environment influences your identity. Step 7, mentor or a coach. Having someone to help you. Going alone will take you longer and it's easy to see things from a single perspective. A coach and or mentor can save you time and effort as well as provide a new perspective. If you'd like some help with this, you can click the link below, schedule a call with me, no pressure though. Step 8 is consistency, self-discipline. It's not a do it once in a while kind of thing. You have to show up consistently. Just like you can't go to the gym once or twice to change your physique and build muscle, you have to do it over a period of time and show up for yourself. Changing your identity is a way of being, is stepping into the new you. It takes work, it takes practice, but this is the best way to help you transform your life. You want to look at tracking your habits, having weekly reflections, track your progress in whatever way you can. And then once you know these things, you can look at other practices such as future self visualization, making your own audio affirmations, which I've made videos in the past about, and find certain techniques that will allow you to step into the new version of yourself. So you can probably see now that it's a combination of the internal work, the visualization to become the person you want, and then following it through with the actions, the behaviors, the habits to become that person. And I'll give you some final pointers that you can take away with you and screenshot this if you want. So if you want to embody your future self with these, consider daily repetition of your ideal life. So this could come in the audio format, which I like to listen to. So I basically create an audio of my ideal day. You can consider making a video or an image or a vision board, or you can even write this out if you prefer. Daily affirmations audio, already mentioned that. Daily identity shift track audio. So this is something where you can actually think about the type of person you want and the tendencies and the behaviors and the actions you do, and you make an audio statement like affirmations specifically for that 2.0 version of yourself. A daily goal card. I got this idea from Bob Proctor. So having a physical card written down with your goal. I'm so happy and grateful now that whatever your goal is, and read it, keep it on you, read it every day. Daily visualization before you go to sleep. Neville Goddard, tap into the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Think about as if your dream, as if your goal is already achieved as you're drifting off to sleep in that relaxed brainwave state. Wardrobe makeover, as I've already mentioned. Maybe you can get a haircut, you can change your physique. Nutrition overhaul, fitness transformation, networking events, and daily studying. If you're serious about making change and you want to shift your identity and become that person you know you truly can, I'm going to leave a link below where you can schedule a call with me to work with me one-on-one to take things to the next level. Thanks for watching. As always, have a great day and I'll talk to you real soon.